Akane Tendo is a 16-year-old Japanese high school anime girl. Like many of her kind, she is a walking contradiction. She seeks out validation from her peers while also rejecting them, wanting approval and conformity while also yearning for freedom and individuality. What is an anime girl? The confusion and insecurities found are perhaps best exemplified by a quote commonly attributed to Akane Tendo, and yet, despite over 160 animated episodes and over 400 chapters of Japanese manga, nowhere in the entire series does Akane repeat the line that introduces the franchise animated introduction, which proudly informs us that Akane does not know what to do. Ya papa, ya papa. That's the name of the podcast. Hey everyone!
Oh,
Welcome
goodness,
to
howdy.
Don't Know What to Do, your favorite Rama One Hat podcast. I am your documentarian, Elena slash Hedgie, and joining me today, I brought along somebody.
Hello, it's me, I'm nobody.
No, I did bring somebody. That's what I say.
uh,
What's the name of the guy on second? Yes, hello, nobody.
howdy, howdy.
How's it going?
Doing alright, thank you for having me again.
Yeah. I understand you have some history with the Rama One Half series. It's been a while since I got to do this. Since I have returning guests, but since this is your first normal episode, I guess before we get into the topic, what's your relationship to the Ranma series?
Yeah, so, how do I even start this story? I have always been a person who reads a lot of books, yeah? And so when I was around 11-ish, I just decided I was going to read every single comic book the library had. Unfortunately, that meant, at the time, starting with the second volume of Ranma Half, because they didn't have the first one, and you couldn't get it through the library loan system. And this was back in the days of the original printings, I guess, original English printings. So it was the bright yellow, appealing cover, and absolutely no background information whatsoever. You just jump in to a chapter of the second volume of the story, and it was deeply confusing, but also pretty interesting for reasons I couldn't quite define, and so from that point on, I went out of my way to get every single book. I did try watching the show a few times, but I was just never really able to stick with it because I was worse at getting media online back then, and that's all I'm gonna say about that part.
Yeah, that is fair. That like you definitely represent that time period before things got easier. It's interesting. The Ranma manga didn't get like a full English translation until like the 2014 reprints.
Yeah, those are the ones that I have for the most part. I do still have some of the old volumes just for like the nostalgia value, but frankly they're worse and they cut the chapters in different places that make less sense.
Yeah. For archiving purposes, the reprints are godsend. Although I don't know. I love finding vintage media and just seeing like here's just some random art they plastered on. But yeah. From that era, and yeah. So I don't know. It sounds like it was a during a harder time to consume entire series, which is sort of fine because back then you weren't really expected to consume everything
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah.
But yeah, so, how much did you eventually delve into if you skipped out on like the anime? But what about everything else?
Um, so I have read the entire comic series multiple times, just over and over again. I loved it. And while it has been a couple of years now since I've done that, it was very much a thing that I had almost memorized at the time, because it was just that important. Beyond
Nice.
that, I haven't done a ton. I don't know why, but for some reason, just every time I try to catch it in other media, it doesn't work for me quite as well. Maybe it's because I just have so much attachment to the comic, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, they're very different experiences. Like, I think I mentioned before, when I started going through Ranma, I was just gonna watch the anime, and it was only when, like, I found out, oh, there's a lot to the manga that's different. And then
For
I
sure.
checked that out simultaneously. And then that just led me down the rabbit hole of, like, well, I may as well check out all this other stuff.
Actually, now that we're talking about this, I'm suddenly remembering I did actually know about this series before I found it at my local library, because there was an ad
Huh.
for it in the back of an issue of my Pokemon Adventures comic, which.
Yep.
Yep, Viz Media.
Yeah, I remember.
Oh,
Definitely. My first exposure to it was in the Pokemon VHS tapes, and but I
really?
didn't
Okay.
know I didn't know it was Ranma until years later when I was because it was an ad for the first Ranma movie, which played
Huh.
the theme to it, and that theme was just stuck in my head until like 15 years later, where I'm like, that does it. It's the present day. We live in the future now. Surely there must be an upload of those Pokemon VHS tapes somewhere. I'm going to find that commercial and learn what that was. And then I played it. I'm like, wait a minute, this is Rama One Half. I've heard of that.
Uh,
But my memory of the commercial was from before I knew what Rama was.
yeah, I have no idea if I could find this particular advertisement, but I remember it very clearly. It was a big splash page, and the tag on it was like, half boy, half girl, all over the top martial arts action. And at the time, I assumed it was like some kind of Firestorm the Nuclear Man thing where they fused together because it showed both of them together, the boy and the girl version, and.
Yeah, they're like Pacific Rim pilots
Yeah,
filing one giant martial artist creature. Magazine adverts and stuff like that. I love those as well. I remember once I tried looking for some so that I could edit a joke I had for like a thumbnail for one of these uploads and learned that no matter what typed in, Google just isn't as reliable as it should have been, and it was hard finding the specific old advert for one of the OAVs I was looking for. But like, it is definitely fun going back and reading what was being advertised back in that era when like they couldn't advertise the entire series. They could only advertise like, hey, here is one book. Here is one tape with 2 episodes in it. You're not going to get the whole thing. It's going to take like 10 years for us to publish the whole thing, but you want to get in on this. Don't you want to see the finale to the martial arts figure skating arc? We're going to put an ad for that.
uh,
But yeah, you seem to be rather well informed enough for us to discuss a subject matter introduce with my incredible narration regarding what may be potentially one of the more controversial characters, depending on when you got into the series and what kind of online communities you were in at the time.
yeah, that's certainly a fair way to put it. I mean, I guess just by way of intro, I didn't have any of that at the beginning, because of course, since I was getting my books through the library, it was, where's the community, right? I can only take it at face value, and she seems fine to me. And then, I don't know, like 5 to 7 years later, when I got on the internet and started seeing fanfiction, it just became very apparent that, oh, people do not like her for some reason.
Yeah, as someone who got into the series recently, I was immediately able to clock like, oh, people would have hated her at the time. I know the exact type of people that were watching anime in the late 90s and early 2000s. This is the exact type of character that they would rally against and such. It was similar to how like I got like 2 episodes in when I was like, oh, this would have had a huge influence on me if I'd watched it at the time it was coming out.
I think, sorry, one of the very first stories in that particular edition of Volume 2 that I found. The first one is the one where Ryoga sneaks into Ranma's house at night after their initial fight, and then Ranma lies and pretends he's a dog or whatever. But very soon after that, I think, there's a dream sequence of Ranma imagining himself dressed in ribbons for some reason to be presented to Kuno, and boy, howdy, that was... Oh man, that was shocking as an 11-year-old seeing a boy thinking about himself that way.
Yeah, I bring it up every time. Rumiko Takahashi, she functions under rule of funny or rule of interesting. I feel like she doesn't think too hard about what she puts down on paper.
No.
She's just very innately in tune with good ideas, I
Seems
feel.
like it.
Like, I don't think she put a lot of thought into gender. She just kind of automatically came up with stuff that, like, oh yeah, that's gonna stick around. That's gonna affect some people.
Oh, for sure. And in a lot of ways, I'm not trying to be mean here, but I have, of course, gone back and read other gender bender comics of the era, and it seems like she just kind of keyed in on really intuitive things much easier than other authors did.
Yeah. Like, I haven't read too many, but, like, whenever I go back to stuff from that era, it's always in the same, like, it's almost always, like, someone being force-femmed or something as, like, a joke. It rarely goes further than, like, oh man, what a wacky situation. Like, they have the same energy of, like, a Disney Channel original movie where someone switches bodies with a dog or something goofy like that. Like, you're not meant to think about it beyond, like, what a wacky situation I'm in. I can't believe I died, but then I got revived in a new body by Hitler, which is a real thing for some reason.
Not to delve too deep into my reading habits as a teenager, but there was definitely one point when I was around 16, 17 or so, when my sister just sort of commented, like, hey, there sure are a lot of comics in Japan about boys turning into girls, huh? Is that common over there?
It's funny how, like, at the time a lot of, like, anime and manga got defined, like, not so by what's most common, but what it had that Western media didn't.
Exactly, yes.
Like, you couldn't find this stuff in Western comics, so you're gonna get the anime and manga that have it, regardless of whether that's obscure or not. But yeah, it is interesting. Like, Rumiko Takahashi, like, so much of her decisions are based off, like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Like, what was the inspiration for Ranma? I don't know. People like martial arts. That seems like a fun thing to do. and that's about it. You know, it's not like she had a lot of interest in martial arts herself. I've talked before about how, like, the martial arts in Ranma is very over the top and not really based on anything real. It's just taking the tropes, but in a very comedic lens.
Sure, yeah.
And you see that in most of the tropes, which I guess is where a lot of, like, Akane's mannerisms come in. Akane is very much like a representation of every standard love interest trope combined into one, but through a comedic lens.
Sure, yeah, that makes a lot of sense when you say it that way.
So I guess, we're implying that, like, Akane is the type of character that a lot of people hated. And it's I think a big reason for that is, I mean, there's a lot of hatred for, like, nagging housewife type characters. Like, characters who exist to just sort of yell at the male protagonist when they're being stupid, regardless of whether they deserve it or not.
Yeah, I certainly understand the dislike for that trope. It happens enough in Western media that the wife is just there to be a problem for the cool, fun husband, but, you know, that doesn't really feel like what's going on with Akane.
Yeah, Akane's weird, because, like, there are moments, especially towards the end, where, like, she very much is not being fair. Like, she's just getting mad for the sake of creating tension for comedic purposes, but there's still tension there. And, like, she doesn't really act logical a lot of the times. And, as expected, a lot of internet communities, they don't care when any other character does something like that. I mean, this is Ranma. Everyone kind of acts that way. But when it's Akane, suddenly it's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, arguably no one acts that way more than Ranma does, frankly.
Yeah, I've said it before, like, almost all the Ramna characters kind of suck. Like, as people, they're all kind of terrible people, so a lot of the times, like, when bad things happen to them, you're like, yeah, but they have it coming. Like, there are several moments when, like, Ranma will get attacked by random women or Akane for things that aren't his fault. Like, he's trying to stop Haposai or Ryoga from doing something bad, and he ends up getting blamed for it. And sure, that sucks. It wasn't his fault, but also look at the, like, 5 million times when Ranma was the one being the asshole to Akane.
Sure,
so it's
yeah.
like, yeah, who cares? He's got it coming, I don't care.
I mean, I think it has to work that way for it to be a comedy. Like, if it were treated realistically in any way, he would just be a monster.
Yeah, but, that's not how a lot of people viewed it. I guess people viewed Akane from a different lens. Like, if you viewed everything from a realistic lens, you saw Akane from a cartoonish lens, or vice versa. No one ever really looked at the context around Akane when they were making fun of her. And, like, that's just kind of a common thing when people hate on the main female lead of something.
Sure.
Is just, the least fair reading. But, like, thankfully, we are logical people who can look at the character and see her for what she is. And I guess that's what we're here to break down. 'Cause a lot of things with, like, Akane and storylines like that revolve around what she isn't. Very much like how we viewed anime and manga in general in the West. Like, it's a lot of storylines don't revolve around what Akane actually is, but just what she's not capable of doing, or what she isn't like, or what she wants to be like but isn't. And there's not a lot of exploration of what's actually there, which is sort of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I said before that I had kind of come into this with maybe some things I've considered, but wasn't sure if they would last the whole episode. But one of them to me really was that at the beginning of the show, it really, or at the beginning of the series, I guess I should say,
Yeah.
it just focuses a lot on her and Ranma's personal relationship. And while they don't get off on a good foot, it's very clear that, like, they are building a relationship and they can be together as people, and this could work. And then, as the series picks up steam, she just kind of falls into the background, and she only exists basically to react to situations and not be that fun character anymore. And so that was one of the things that I always felt kind of bad about for her, is just she gets so sidelined by the increasingly weird nature of the world when she's the normal person.
Yeah, this is repeating a lot of points I've made before, but, like, yeah, early Ranma wasn't really episodic. It was multiple plot points happening simultaneously, and Ranma and Akane did develop until they reached the point that became their new status quo.
Exactly,
Which,
yeah.
According to my notes, was the first 36 or so chapters. And then from that point onwards, well, this is what Akane is. This is what their relationship is like. That's not really going to change anymore. So we got, like, 350 more chapters of just Akane being Akane. She's been established. It's not going to change beyond this point. That's just what she is now.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, yeah, that's how most of the characters function from that point onwards. But, like, it's interesting to go back to those early parts where they did experience development for longer than their introduction.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know that it could have realistically done something like that to continue developing characters and remain the comedy series that it became. But I kind of wish they had at least tried. It just, as much as I like it, it does kind of flatten out in some ways. It turns into Italian pantomime, everyone puts on their clown costume and is the same person they were yesterday.
Yeah, that's what that is, and I don't know. I'm curious what led to that decision, because you can feel the point where the series, like even in the manga form, became purely episodic. And it's just like, here's the story, it is entirely self contained. There might be a character or so that you don't recognize if you say skip someone, but these characters are simple enough that you can understand them right away. If you don't know who Shampoo is, but you read a chapter that's about Shampoo, you know what kind of person she is within like 5 seconds.
Sure,
As
yeah.
soon as she crashes into Rama with the bike. And so when you get like over a series of over 400 chapters, most of them you can just pick up whatever. Probably to avoid the problem you ran into of picking up the second volume. What if someone picks up volume 13 and don't know what's happening?
Yeah, okay, I guess that's fair.
Yeah, that's just how stories were consumed then, I suppose. But like, yeah, you can see the impact it had on character growth, and Akane maybe got it the worst. Cause yeah, she starts out so much more complex, but over time, yeah, she is. I've said before, I separate the characters into the rival cast and the family cast. And the family cast exists to be the Greek chorus. They are there to react to stuff, like you said. And the dichotomy there I specified is that rival characters are the focus, but they're only present when they're the focus. And then they just disappear until it's their turn in the spotlight again. Whereas the family characters are never the focus, but they're always present. So Akane is in almost every chapter. She's in most storylines, even if the only thing she does in those stories is just sit in the background reacting to things
Sure.
or yelling at Ranma when he screws up. But she's always there. It's like we simultaneously get a better understanding of her as a character than everyone else, while also never really getting to learn about her.
There's a story later on in the comic where Ryoga manages to find some magic waterproofing soap that keeps him from transforming. And because he has this magic soap, he intends to ask Akane out on a date. And then this is like a 6-chapter, 7-chapter story of Ranma trying to steal the soap from him so he doesn't have to be a girl anymore, you know. But the thing that really sticks out to me about that story in particular with regard to this conversation is that Ryoga and Akane basically do go out on that date. They're there, and Akane does not exist for any part of the story except as a plot device. She's not there to be a character, she's there to be the person who's coming up on them and might notice something going on with this magic soap.
Yeah. She's there to be the focal point of this conflict, because it typical, as is typical for Ranma and Ryoga, this conflict doesn't need to exist. It's a bar of soap. They can both use the same soap.
Or, get more. It's soap. You can order that.
Yeah. And like the punchline at the end is that it's soap, so it just washes right off. So like you're only waterproof while you're bathing, which just defeats the entire point. But like, yeah, the entire conflict is Ranma can't wait more than 5 minutes, so he has to interrupt this date. And also he's Ranma, so he's not gonna let someone date Akane anyways. He'd still get jealous. But it's all about like not letting this happen. And to me, the most interesting about that arc is that that's one of the few times where Ryoga is very direct about his crush towards Akane. He is very openly wanting, like, it's a lot of the times there's a misunderstanding. Like, Akane doesn't realize it's a date, or she's specifically doing it to make Ranma jealous.
Sure.
Or she thinks something else is happening. Here, there's no ambiguity. Akane is aware that Ryoga is thinking this is a date, and he wants to confess his feelings to her. But the takeaway she has at the end is that this is a result of Ranma messing with him. Because, over the course of the fight, Ryoga gets very intense, and Akane, who never really gets to see Ryoga be like that, is under the impression of, well, he's not usually like this. This must be because of Ranma. Ranma must have told him something, or something happened during their fight, and now Ryoga has the wrong idea in his head. So even though, like, there is a potential change happening, like, her understanding of Ryoga as a person has changed. She used to not think he was into her, and now he is coming onto her pretty strongly.
Right.
But she doesn't register it as a change. She registers it as, well, Rama did something dumb, and now this has led to a misunderstanding I need to straighten out. So nothing does change in the end. And to her, it's just business as usual, even when things are happening. So she's objectively like defying and ignoring change, anything that could lead to something other than wacky shenanigans.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can't really counterpoint that at all. That's certainly the closest to character she gets in that arc, and it's specifically to avoid being a character.
Yeah, and like they do that multiple times. Like there's the one with the stomach doodle where she comes really close to figuring out that Ryoga is Pichan. And like they like she has the moment of like, nah, it can't be. Like the moment does cross her mind, even if only briefly, but then at the end the status quo is returned to, and she's like, oh, I was silly for thinking that. And a lot of things end up that way, where like Akane has to be portrayed as very naive and dumb in order to keep returning to the status quo. She is not allowed to notice things that might change her understanding of someone or cause her to reevaluate something, whether it's about herself or someone she knows. Just no character development allowed. And this is kind of true for all the characters, but again, it's especially noteworthy for Akane because there are just so many opportunities for things to change and they don't. Like, compare that to say, like, I don't know, Tatewaki Kuno, age 17. He doesn't really get a lot of opportunities to develop as a person, so it's not like he's failing to develop. He's just kind of an idiot and that's how he is and that's why he's funny. There's no missed opportunities there.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I mean, I feel like there are opportunities for him, especially from what I recall, there are multiple instances when Ranma straight up tells him, look, we are the same person, stop trying to date me, I'm not interested. And he just doesn't process that and continues on his merry way as if the status quo hasn't changed.
That is true. Yeah. More so at near the start of the series. As it goes on, Ranma is definitely openly lying to and manipulating Kuno.
Sure.
So it's at least more understandable that that's not happening. But yeah, you are right. There is room to change. Just not on the same level as someone like, say, Akane.
Yeah, no, he's certainly not in every episode watching everything that happens.
Yeah, but even regardless of that, like, if Tatewaki Kuno found out that both Ranmas are the same person, he would probably just get really mad and try to kill Ranma for lying to him, and he would continue to be the same person.
Probably, yeah.
He would just stop coming on to Ranma. It probably wouldn't result in a massive change due to the type of personality he is. But, like, yeah, there's probably more opportunities in the anime, because I noticed that the anime tries to flesh out the Kuno family a lot.
Yeah, I noticed that. They've certainly got more characters that just don't show up in the comic.
Yeah, the anime has moments of, like, Rumiko Takahashi isn't doing anything with these, so we can try and do that, but also the manga isn't finished yet, and we don't want to potentially contradict stuff that might get confusing, so they don't push it too much. But, like, yeah, even at the time, the people adapting the manga could recognize that there were opportunities to change things up that weren't being taken.
Yeah, not to dive too much back into my history with the series, but this was actually the first time I realized that the anime was different than the comic, and it's what prompted me to try to look for it in the first place, was when I did start reading fanfiction those years later, and suddenly this other guy, Sasuke the Ninja, is there, and who is this? He's not in the... Is this your OC? What is happening here?
Yeah, that's a good example of, like, yeah, this is a rich family. Why wouldn't they have a butler? And why would it be a normal butler? Of course, it's a weird, goofy ninja butler. They're just looking at opportunities and being like, well, if Rumiko Takahashi isn't going to do something there, we are.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately, I don't think there's too many examples of this in the anime with Akane. Probably because she's always so present, they didn't really feel a need to explore her further. Although I do have one interesting thing. So I got a question for you. How many Akane focused storylines can you think of? Like, not stuff where she's prominent, but like where it's focused around her. She is the focus. So
Oh man.
not like the soap one where she's there, but like not the main character.
Uh, you ask me that, and the only thing that's coming, I guess two things that are coming to my head are the very early stuff where she's crushing on Dr. Tofu, and that's like her whole thing at that moment, and she's having to learn and
Yeah.
grow and get over that. And then there's a later, I think it's only a 3 to 4 chapter story about Romeo and Juliet, the play, and how she's always wanted to be Juliet, and how she's doing her best and fighting for it, and everyone is telling her she can't do that.
Yeah, that's another good one.
But that's
Yeah.
all I got off the top of my head.
Yeah, there's not a lot. In terms of the manga, the only other ones I can think of, there's the Ryugenzawa arc. Do you remember the one about like the land with the giant animals and there's a giant dragon in the lake or something and Akane goes there and there's the guy.
Oh, right, yes, yes.
Yeah, I'm describing this terribly for people who don't know that, but don't worry, well that'll come up eventually. There's that one. There it's not really an arc, but there were multiple one-off chapters about the fact that Akane can't swim and the
Sure.
various goofy shenanigans of trying to learn that. Like, here's a chapter where the school principal teaches her to swim. Here's a chapter where they're at the beach and she gets like a magic swimsuit. Here's a chapter where their teacher tries to teach her how to swim, and just a bunch of stuff there. So it's at least a recurring plot point that's about her. But like, there isn't much. And your two examples came early on when, she was still getting a lot of focus and then just sort of fell off.
There is another one that I'm sort of thinking of, but I also don't know if it's really fair for me to say it, because I think it's in volume 32. There's a story about Ranma's mom taking Akane bra shopping because she needs help for some reason. And that's
Oh,
all well
yeah.
and good, except then Ranma immediately butts in because Ranma's mom can't let Ranko run around braless. That's so inappropriate. And so
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
starts as an Akane story and then just immediately redirects.
Yeah, that is another thing. Ranma's mom is like was a very brief change up where like, well, now Ranma has to pretend to not be Ranma, and therefore when Ranma's mom is around, he and Akane are not fiancés, which means they get to have a slightly different dynamic. So like, there's also the example where she's teaching Rama and Akane how to cook. And in
Oh
that
yeah,
one, they are
uh-huh.
straight up rivals. They are competing, and it's very rare for that to happen. So like, that is a very rare change up where we get to see Rama and Akane interact in a unique way, and I appreciate that. But yeah, as you said, it's mostly about Ranma and his mom. Akane's just sort of there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really her story. She's just there to set up. Akane's there to explain why they're going bra shopping in the first place.
Yeah, yeah, she's an excuse, not a character.
Yeah. So like, yeah, not a lot of examples in the manga, and usually when I'm doing these character focused episodes, I try and find like what is a story that best exemplifies the most important traits of a character. And it's hard to do that with Akane. Because, well, one, there's so few, but also
Mm-hmm.
the stories that do explore her explore things that don't really get brought up again in the other stories.
Yeah, the back to the Romeo and Juliet one. I think it's really interesting that her whole plot there is that she's been forced to be Romeo over and over again because she's so boyish and tough and strong, and she just wants to be a girl for once, and people don't want to let her, and then that's just never a thing again.
Yeah, Akane's relationship with femininity is so fascinating to break down. Really, that was kind of what I focused on with my little Werner Herzog bit. Like, we're constantly told that she's a tomboy, that she's not very feminine, but you look at how she behaves and her interests, and it's like, that's not really true. Like, she
Yeah,
likes martial arts, but also she's into fashion, she's into cooking, she wants to play Juliet when they do the school play, she wants to be feminine. Again, the only other example you could think of at first was the Dr. Tofu thing, and that one revolves around Akane wanting to be perceived as more feminine because of her crush. And it's just so interesting how, yeah, so many people perceive her as very boyish, to the point where it's seen as appealing. Like, they want her to be the lead role. They want her to be Romeo because she's so cool. All the boys at school are crushing on her because she's badass. She can kick all of our asses, and whichever one of us is able to compete with that is the only one worthy of her. Like, people look up to her and respect her, but only for her less feminine traits, despite the fact that those feminine traits do still exist.
It's like, listen, I love a woman who can kick my ass as much as the next non-binary person, but that doesn't make her less of a woman. You gotta respect both parts. It doesn't...
Yeah, so like, the Romeo and Julie one is interesting, cause, you know, it explores something that isn't really mentioned after the start of the series, cause the early beginning parts do sort of explore her relationship with wanting to be a martial artist, but also wanting to be a feminine girl at the same time, and just the refusal from people around her to let her do both. Either they think she's cool and badass and want to fight her, or in the opposite direction of, like, her father, who, like, just wants her to settle down and get married to someone else so he can inherit the dojo. And, like, no one's really encouraging her martial arts, except for, ironically, the people that want to fight her. and that is part of why Ranma and Akane's relationship works, and why their development at the start of the series is interesting, because, like, Ranma is simultaneously respecting her for her martial arts and putting down her unfeminine traits, but also he'll have those moments where he calls her cute reluctantly, where he will treat her like a girl.
Yeah.
Ranma treats her as an equal, even if he pretends that that's not what he's doing.
Yeah, it's very, one of the things that really sticks with me is that over the course of the series, we're constantly seeing Ranma run off to train and learn new things, and he's practicing and he's getting stronger, and he's learning how to shoot ki beams and fire tornadoes, and Akane doesn't get any of that. And, of course, she doesn't really ever even get to fight after that first few introductory chapters, but it's just so much like she's the one who's always talking about wanting to do this, and he's the one who's being forced into it by circumstance constantly, but she never gets the chance.
Yeah, and like I pointed out before, Sol doesn't seem against the idea of Akane training with martial arts. Like, he's not actively stopping her, but he's not encouraging her. Like, Genma is waking up every morning to train with his son. They spar, they do exercise together. They spent most of Rama's life traveling the world and being homeless together. Whereas Akane seems to just wake up and just do exercise by herself. Her father's basically retired. He doesn't seem interested in pursuing martial arts himself either, let alone encourage his daughter. But, like, what can Akane do by herself? Like, she goes for a jog, she breaks some cinder blocks, but, like, there's nothing she can do beyond that. She never really pursues any interest. I think a rare example is the Super Soba arc. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so for listeners, there is an arc where Happosai buys this package of super strength Super Soba noodles that just make you very strong, and Akane accidentally eats them and basically becomes the strongest thing alive. And so she just immediately wants to show off. And I think that is a good
Yeah.
example of her character, where as soon as she has the ability to fight without like potential risks, as soon as she is capable of like being like, yeah, I can do this, of course she immediately wants to fight people. She immediately like seeks out Shampoo and challenges her like, hey, let's do martial arts ping pong because there's a tournament happening. Even though Akane like would almost never go out of her way to challenge Shampoo or even give her the time of day, but now it's like, oh, it's on.
Yeah, uh-huh. And indeed, even chastises Ranma on many occasions for accepting challenges from her.
Yeah, like there are multiple times where Ranma forces himself to adhere to certain rules and challenges, and Akane's like, this is dumb. You don't have to do this. But as soon as she gets the opportunity, she will do it. Like this
Exactly,
is one of the
yeah.
this is one of the most petty moments for her, because it's not like she's trying to get back at Shampoo for anything in specific. It's just, you know what, Shampoo sucks, and I can now shut her mouth once and for all. I'm gonna do that. Like, that's her entire motivation for competing in this ping pong tournament. And the whole time, it's like, so part of the conflict is that, they phrase it as like it gives you the noodles give you whiskers because of all the masculine super strength stuff, which everyone interprets as like, oh no, Akane's going to grow a beard or something because of all the testosterone. But then it turns out no, she literally grows whiskers like on a mouse, and it's like,
I think she could have kept it. It would have been fine. It was cute.
yeah, but like. Also, that also shows off her character, though, because she's getting into the fights, but then as soon as the whiskers grow, she runs off. She literally climbs on top of a tree to get away from everyone and cry, because, like, oh no, she looks ugly now. And that shows that, like, again, she wants to be a martial artist, but she also wants to be traditionally feminine. They are both very important goals to her at growing these, like, animal whiskers and messing with her face. It's like she doesn't like it. So she's genuinely upset by it. And then part of the conflict in this whole storyline is that like Ranma is trying to give her the antidote, except he also is very obviously upset by the fact that Akane is now stronger than him. So she very much assumes that he's trying to trick her. Even though he's trying to help her, but for the wrong reasons. So she doesn't trust him. And then it ends with the joke where, like, Ranma comforts her and is very supportive. Like, you're still cool. It doesn't matter. You don't need the super strength noodles. You were a great fighter all along. Let's go home. And she eats the antidote. And then it cuts to them at home where Ranma's like beating her at arm wrestling. He's like, again! Let's go! Let's go! You can't beat this! Like, just super excited to finally be the strong one again.
I don't mean to take too many steps back, but
Sure.
To my recollection, I don't think I remember any point in the comic where it's actually indicated that she's been trained by her father. I mean, She talks about doing martial arts, and she talks about starting very young, but she never actually says he taught her, or that she practices the Tendo style. It kind of seems like she's just been doing this on her own in the backyard her whole life.
Yeah, they're like, we could assume that, because where else would she have picked it up from? But like, no, they never confirm, at least in the manga, that that's where she learned martial arts. Honestly, I think this is a goofy headcanon. In my mind, I like to think that Son tried to teach Kasumi martial arts, and it didn't work, and she didn't like it, and after that he's like, oh no, my little princess doesn't like violence, I'm gonna stop this. And that's why he didn't teach like him. That's why he didn't teach the other girls.
Dad's in this series, I tell ya.
There is at least one example in the anime where she does, you know, embrace the Tendo style. That's what's like implying that she did learn it, and it does another thing that is similar to a story in the manga in the Dojo Destroyer arc.
Ah, yes,
that one, because both of those, there's that one, and then there's the anime exclusive OAV about Son's illegitimate daughters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's an OAV where like these two girls show up claiming to be his daughters, and he's like, I swear I do not know anything about this. But regardless, these two girls claim that they are the true heirs of the Tendo Dojo, and they challenge Akane and then Ranma for it. I do like when they do that. They did that with the fine dining one arc as well, where like Ranma technically counts as one of the Tendo daughters. He gets roped into it. I appreciate when he's included in stuff like that.
Sure,
But yeah,
yeah.
just this fight for the dojo, who will inherit the Tendo School of Martial Arts, is the main focus of that. And then meanwhile, in the manga, the Dojo Destroyer arc is about, well, there is a Dojo Destroyer. There is a guy who his entire life is he will issue a challenge to dojos, and if you can't beat me, I'll steal your sign. Which seems like not a big deal, but I guess it's a sense of pride. It's, you know, it's like petty stuff like high schoolers stealing each other's mascots or
Sure.
whatever.
Well, you know, it's like when you get your mask taken off in the ring, you're not allowed to put it back on.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. You don't want to lose your sign to the guy that steals people's signs, because that means you're weak. It means you failed to protect your dojo.
Exactly.
Yeah, doesn't matter since the Tendo Dojo doesn't have any customers anyways. But still, it's about pride, and the main conflict of that arc is that Shampoo has basically blackmailed Ranma into going on a date with her. But it's basically it's essentially like Ranma promising to go on 2 dates at the same time, where it's like he has to go on a date with Shampoo, but also someone has to protect the dojo with Akane. But meanwhile, Akane's like, well, I don't need Ranma, I'll defend the dojo by myself. Which is similar to what she does in that OAV as well. She insists that she can do it alone. She doesn't need Ranma to come in and save the dojo for her. She insists that she can do it. So, unlike the ping pong battle, which is very petty, these two examples are very much like her honor has been challenged. She has something to prove. She wants to demonstrate that she is capable of competing on a professional level against real martial artists and be there to protect her family's legacy. It is important to her.
Yeah, for sure.
So even if we never really see Son training her, at the very least, it does mean a lot to her. Like, I don't see where else she could have learned it, but also she has to have learned from him if she feels that much pride in his family teachings.
There's like I say, it's been a couple years since I've reread this, so it's possible that I might just not be remembering something.
Oh yeah, don't worry, I misremember stuff all the time.
Yeah, to my recollection, the only part of the comic where it's ever even vaguely referenced that she might be doing Tendo-style martial arts is there's a panel where Ranma says something and she's doing the comedy glowering, she's in the corner making a mean face, and then there's a one-off joke about how it seems like she's getting close to figuring out her dad's inflated demon head technique, and that's it. That's all we got.
Yeah, he does have the demon head technique. I did always find it interesting how, like, whenever Son is, like, prepared to do serious fights, he puts on, like, samurai armor.
Yeah, love that.
Which is like, that's cool, but also that doesn't seem to be what Happelsai is teaching people. Where did he learn that?
Yeah, it doesn't seem super conducive to, like, traditional martial arts either.
Yeah. I also once, like, headcanoned that Akane may have potentially learned kendo at school. Because we never see Son teaching her, but then later I realized, well, he's got the samurai armor, presumably he does know how to use a sword. We just never see it. But yeah, she could have also learned that from him, because aside from just generic punches and kicks, the only specific thing Akane ever does is occasionally pick up a stick and do some kendo stuff. She could have maybe learned that from her father. And that might... I still go by my headcanon that she probably did try to join the kendo club at school, and that's how she and Tatsuaki Kuno met, and that's what eventually led to him declaring that no one can date her unless they fight her. I like to imagine that for like maybe 1 or 2 days, she's like, that's my senpai, he's really cool, I get to learn kendo from him. And then, oh wait.
Oh, this again.
But yeah, all of these examples, like, they show off traits of Akane, but they don't really explore them. They're just kind of there, and again, almost none of these traits come up outside of these examples. So, if you just never read those chapters or never saw those episodes, for all you would have no indication that Akane even cares about the dojo.
Or, frankly, even about Ranma. Her existence mostly is just there to be sarcastic and mean.
Yeah, it's it's hard to get a gauge for her, and that's why she seems like such a contradiction. Except that's all, like, those contradictions are what make her one of the realest characters, because she's one of the few characters who's interested in more than one thing at a time. Because again, we see examples. It's not just an act. It's not just like pressure. It's not just her wanting to prove something. She seems to genuinely care about martial arts and becoming stronger and being recognized as a true fighter and proving that. But also she genuinely cares about being perceived as feminine and recognized as more than just a cool, tough girl. She wants to play Juliet. And she's genuinely upset when Ranma's wacky cartoon shenanigans get in the way of that. She's upset that, like, you're ruining this. I finally get to be Juliet, but you're making it about you. Like, both of these things matter to her, even if we never really get to see these traits interact with each other or get explored. But because she's constantly present, if you consume the whole thing, which is a lot, but if you do, you will find those examples. They're almost never the focus, but they're there. And you see all of these different traits are what make Akane Akane. She has layers to her, even if we never get to see more than one of those layers at a given time. And it's very easy to miss them.
Absolutely, yeah. And maybe this is me applying stuff that isn't there. I understand that this is probably just there as a punchline. But there is a story later in the series in which Shampoo specifically erases Akane's memory of Ranma. And, you know, it's mostly a Ranma series because he has to fight to get the cure to get her memory back or whatever. But there's a couple different moments in there where she cannot remember his name because of what was done to her. And she'll just pop out stuff like, oh yeah, I know who you are. You're the hero of the Ramayana, the ancient Sanskrit manuscripts. And like, okay, is that a thing you know about? Have you read this? Or is this just here for the joke? What's going on here, Akane?
Yeah, that is an interesting arc. That is the end of what I've called the first saga.
Oh, okay.
Because you said it's later. That happens in the very first Shampoo story. That's when Shampoo is introduced.
What?
I'm looking at it.
Huh. Okay.
Chapters 31 to 36. Shampoo's introduction, like before we even get to really meet Shampoo, back when she's introduced as just, oh right, there's this Chinese girl that's trying to kill me.
Weird. That feels way later to me for some reason.
Interesting. It's in the Netflix. That's the season finale for the first season of the Netflix anime right now.
Yeah, I don't know why that is then.
But yeah, that is what I consider to be like the finale of the first saga, which is about Rama and Akane, because that whole saga encompasses the Dr. Tofu stuff. It introduces the Kuno siblings, which also influence her relationship with Ranma. It encompasses all of Ryoga's stuff and his rivalry with Ranma. Everything up to the end of the first Shampoo arc revolves around Ranma and Akane getting closer. And it ends with this final challenge where her memory is erased and we see Ranma and the lengths he will go through. That is one of the moments in that arc where, like, Akane doesn't know this guy. In fact, it's implied that she keeps forgetting him. Cause, they'll get home and she'll be like, "Who are you?" Even though they just reintroduced her to him like 5 minutes ago at school. It's like she forgot. Yeah. It's like she forgot that too, and is meeting him for the first time again.
Well, not just that. It kind of seems like she's forgetting him every time there's a, for lack of a better word, a scene change. Like, they walk home together, they were together, and then she walks in the door and she doesn't remember that he was just next to her.
Yeah, he was presumably next to her the whole trip. But yeah, she seems to forget. But there is the one moment where like, they're talking to, like, Dr. Tofu, and he's explaining, well, there's the opposite shampoo that can be used to do the shiatsu massage to restore her memories, but you can only buy it in China. And Rama's like, well, then I gotta go to China. How am I gonna do that? And just Akane getting this moment of, like, why is this guy going through so much effort for whatever the hell these people are talking about? I don't know what's going on, but this guy claims to know me, and he's willing to literally run to China to get to buy some shampoo so that Dr. Tofu can do a little pressure point thing. Which is also the first time where Ranma's like, oh, right, I don't have any money. How do I get to China? I think it's the first time Ranma acknowledges that he could just swim there. He did it once. He doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to do it again, but he is genuinely contemplating it. That's the one time where Ranma's like, I could just go to China right now. It's gonna suck, but I need to do it. And then that's when Shampoo shows up and reveals that she has the shampoo. I like how this whole thing is just for a pun. This entire plot point is just to be a pun. Because it's kept a mystery up to this point. Because we don't see what Shampoo did to Akane. We just know she did some kind of martial arts thing. And then Dr. Tofu explains, and it's like, right, if you do this special shiatsu massage and you hit certain pressure points and use special minerals, you can erase someone's memory. There's a special shampoo you can buy at this one store in China that can do that. So, like, the whole thing is just a joke that, like, what did Shampoo do? She washed Akane's hair. Which is even a joke, because, like, at first it's like, Akane, are you okay? You just got to fight. She's like, really? I don't remember. In fact, I feel strangely refreshed. And it's just, then when they do the flashback of, like, Shampoo at, like, super fast speeds, just brushing Akane's hair and washing it, and even drying it and styling it with the blow dryer.
I've been thinking about this a little as you've talked, and I think I figured out the reason I thought it was later, and it's because, to my mind, I associate the weirder, more magical, quote-unquote, Chinese martial arts with when Cologne shows up and starts being a regular cast member. It just didn't feel like a thing that happened with just Shampoo, so clearly that's thrown my memory off a little bit, but I think that's why I thought it was later than it was.
Yeah, fair enough, although it also, in fairness, Cologne is introduced not shortly afterwards. Like, Shampoo leaves, and there's, like, one arc before she comes back with Cologne.
Yeah, true enough.
But, like, I'd say it's actually, like, kind of the opposite, because early on, the series leaned very heavily into, like, Chinese mysticism. All the magic stuff came from China. And then over time, we started just getting other stuff. We started getting magic tarot cards possessed by the devil from the Bible. We started getting, the Indian demigods, all kinds of weird mythical things from other cultures that aren't China. Probably because Rumiko Takahashi realized that the whole Orientalist thing of, like, well, everything magic is from China. That doesn't exactly hold water when that's all you do. So she started doing other stuff besides that.
Yeah, and I think there's also a little bit of, like, okay, well, this was a semi-realistic comic, and then I taught my main character how to shoot ki blasts, so maybe there can be other magic.
Yeah. It is also funny to think back then of, like, Right, something magic is happening. Let's go to Dr. Tofu and ask him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I said it before, I think Cologne is the reason Dr. Tofu stopped showing up. Because she kind of stole his role.
Yeah, she sure did, huh?
But yeah, and there's that, and like, I don't know, Akane's, like, early on, the first thing with Akane is the Dr. Tofu thing. She has a crush on this older man who also has a crush on her sister, and there's the whole drama there. And like, I find it interesting how Akane just immediately gets over Dr. Tofu as soon as Ranma starts to treat her nicely. There's never any moments of like anything there at all. Like you get the impression she just doesn't think about Dr. Tofu ever. Like it's not just because Rumiko Takahashi stopped using him, but also when he is present, it's just, oh, it's the doctor from down the street. Let's ask him for help. There's no sense that she used to have a crush on this guy for most of her childhood. There is an anime exclusive episode, which I love the title. You saw a little bit of it. It's just called Akane Goes to the Hospital. I just think it's a funny thing to name your episode. It sounds like an Always Sunny episode. Like Akane's about to get hurt, and then it just cuts to black, and it's just Akane goes to the hospital. But like, yeah, the plot of that episode is Akane breaks her leg.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she has to stay in the hospital for a couple of days. So she's just basically living with Dr. Tofu since he lives at the clinic is his home. He lives there. And most of the episode is like everyone's visiting her in the hospital, checking in on her, except for Ranma. Ranma's being a tsundere. He doesn't want to let on that he's worried about her, and there's that stuff. But like, the whole episode, I was like, there is nothing going on here with Dr. Tofu. There's literally a scene where Akane wakes up and sees, like before the clinic is open, she sees Dr. Tofu working out in his backyard, like doing push-ups, and he doesn't have a shirt on. And she's just like, hey, Dr. Tofu, doing your exercise? Like, yep, I do it every morning. Hey, do you want some exercise too? I got some weights. And she just starts lifting weights in bed, and like, that's it. Huh. I'm just like, it's so weird that like there's no reaction there. That,
yeah,
like, this is like one of the only times that remembers Dr. Tofu is a martial artist. Of course he works out in the morning. Like, he literally says like he has to keep like his finger strength strong for all the different pressure points things he does. So he's literally doing, like, I said he was doing push-ups. He's doing finger push-ups. Like, he's not wearing a shirt. It shows you, this dude's buff. He's an actual fighter. It's so weird that this scene it feels like the scene should be telling me, hey, Dr. Tofu's kind of hot, isn't he? But, like, I'm not getting that energy from any of the characters in the scene. Like, Akane doesn't, like, it looks like she's waking up to, like, and Dr. Tofu's making breakfast. It's like, oh, that smells good. What are you making? Here you go. Like, just a normal, regular, casual conversation. Whereas I'm like, I don't know. It feels like she got over him super quick for given how much of an influence he was on her. We never see much of it, but you almost get the impression that her desire to be feminine and be recognized as feminine is almost entirely because of Dr. Tofu and Kasumi. Because they have the flashback, like the flashback of like high school age Kasumi being like, hey, Dr. Tofu won't like you if you keep acting rowdy like that. Like, she's very young in that flashback when she starts getting taught that, like, hey, these people won't like you as much if you keep acting unladylike, which it seems kind of mean when I phrase it that way. I'm pretty sure that's not how Kasumi meant it. It definitely seems more like my kindergarten age sister is getting into fights at school and I want to tell her that that's not cool, rather
Yeah.
than you need to be feminine. But that's very clearly the lesson that Akane took from that at a very young age. And it's just interesting how, like, we see the flashback to establish how long she spent with this mentality and this goal of becoming more feminine to get Dr. Tofu's approval specifically. And it's just so interesting that she immediately gets over it. And even in the anime, which, as I said, the anime does occasionally explore stuff that isn't in the manga, but not even this example is willing to explore that. Not even this is willing to imply that there's still some attraction there. Akane is just completely over him. She's just completely done with this goal to be seen as feminine. Mainly because her new goal is to be recognized as feminine by Ranma. She wants to meet Ranma's standard of femininity. She wants Ranma to call her cute and tell her that she's feminine. Which is its own, can of worms, but like,
yeah.
I don't know. It just feels like it just feels weird that she immediately shifted goals to a new person.
Yeah, thinking about it, it kind of feels like that episode at the end of that initial arc when she has to carry Ranma home. That honestly feels like a button on the Dr. Tofu stuff in a weird way. Like, okay, well, I carried you home, I don't care about that other guy anymore.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. That the scene you mentioned of like the initial Dr. Tofu arc, quote unquote, it's hard to really tell what is and isn't an arc that early on.
Sure.
But like yeah, that moment of her carrying Ranma home after his injuries, like that's essentially the first time the two of them are seen getting along together. After, aside from the first scene before she finds out he's a boy. That's like the first time that you see any connection there. And it's meant to be important. And it's also 100% because of Dr. Tofu. He is absolutely being a wingman there. Because he's the reason Rama can't walk. Like, he purposely timed it so that Rama would be unable to make it home. So, like, all of that is connecting. And, like, yeah, you're right. It really feels like after that is, like, technically, we then have to skip forward to the scene where her hair gets cut.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, in between those moments, you don't really see her pining after Dr. Tofu. It's like she has a moment with Ranma, and like, there's maybe something there, but then stuff happens, and then her hair gets cut, and then she thinks about why she grew it out in the first place, which was to get Dr. Tofu's approval. But then she just, moves on. She cleans it up, and that's her hair for the rest of the series. She moved on pretty fast. And, like, I think that part is good. It's healthy. It shows she's moving on. I just, like, I feel like, again, similar to all the other examples, all these traits within Akane only exist in these moments, and they never really get referenced anywhere else. You look at what's happening in this episode, and you're like, yeah, she's moving on, but, like, there's probably still a part of her that thinks Dr. Tofu's cute. She had a crush on him for, like, 10 years? Ever since she was, like, a little kid? And it's like, it's understandable that, like, a little tiny childhood baby crush is very quickly gotten over. But again, like, you see this guy with his shirt off doing push-ups in the backyard, and you're in his house, and it's just treated as nothing. And I'm like, why even have this scene? I was fully expecting her to, like, get embarrassed, and he doesn't realize it, and he's just being a weirdo, silly guy. That's what I thought that whole sequence of her staying at his house was gonna be. But no, there's nothing.
Yeah,
It's just she's at his home. He's waking up, getting ready to open up the clinic, and then she just goes to her hospital bed to rest some more, and that's it.
Yeah, that's very strange. I guess I didn't have that context since that I don't have that story, but yeah, that is really weird.
Yeah, there's a lot of examples like that where, like I said, it feels like they want to pursue things that Rumiko Takahashi didn't, but then they don't commit to it. Like it's just bizarre when they do that. And like I said, I
Hmm.
think maybe part of it is that like the manga was still ongoing, so they didn't want to make any major change ups or whatever. But like they already have. There were already some major changes. As you said, they gave the Kuno family an entire new character. Like, that's a big change. But, like, when it comes to exploring some of this stuff, like, they don't explore it, but they still feature it. And it feels like they want to explore it. Like, they wish there was something there to adapt, but there isn't. You get those moments of, like, here's Dr. Tofu again. He hasn't appeared in, like, 100 chapters, but we want to put him in here. We want him to be in an episode.
Yeah, you remember Dr. Tohu. Everybody likes this guy.
The first season of the anime had one filler episode. Cuz people like to talk about how later seasons get more fillery, which is,
Mhm.
funny given that that's how the manga changes. It also gets more fillery.
Sure.
But like the first season was just stories from the manga except for one, and it's also a Dr. Tofu episode. Like you get the
Ah.
feeling that they really like Dr. Tofu, they really like Ukyo, they really like these characters that Takahashi forgets, and you get moments. And I really like that episode because the plot. I actually since it was season one, I saw that episode before I started reading the manga. I was so surprised to find out it was anime only because it fit right in.
Huh.
It the plot was Dr. Tofu's mom is trying to set him up in an arranged marriage, but he's too embarrassed to admit that he has a
Oh.
crush on Kasumi. So so the joke is that Akane, Ranma, and also Nabiki, once she realizes she can make money, just all the girls, they simultaneously come up with the plan of pretending to be Dr. Tofu's fiance to scare off the mom. But because multiple of them show up, she's like, well, clearly we need to find out which is the best fiance. And they all have to compete with each other.
You know what? I think I did actually see that one. I think that's one of the very few of the episodes I actually did watch. That sounds pretty familiar.
Yeah, it's early on in the anime, so you could have, but like, yeah, it feels very goofy, but also I like that because it shows off the relationship between the characters. I think that's a better exploration where like Akane wants to help Dr. Tofu, and her solution is, well, if we convince his mom that he's already found someone, she'll stop trying to set him up with very random girls. And so she has to pretend to be his fiance, not knowing that Ranma's also doing the same plan because he sees that Akane's upset and wants to help
Mhm.
Dr. Tofu. So he's like, I got an idea. And it's goofy that they all come up with the same plan simultaneously. But like, it is nice to show like that is an interaction that isn't just here's the guy that works at the clinic down the road. It shows that Akane does care about Dr. Tofu. She wants to help him, and she seems a little bit embarrassed that her solution involves pretending to be in a romantic relationship with him. And I think that is very much in line with how Rumiko Takahashi would write a story like that.
I strongly agree. It sounds, and from my memory, yeah, absolutely. That said, it does feel more like a Ranma specific plan, so it's interesting to see Akane kind of getting into that same kind of hijinks, but I appreciate it nonetheless.
Yeah. I do like moments that remind us that, like, Akane is still a teenage girl. She is still kind of goofy and silly at times. Again, the whole ping pong thing is that she gets super straight, and her first thought is, I'm gonna shut up that shampoo once and for all. I'll show her what's up. And I think that is very much, the type of aside to Akane we don't see very often.
Yeah, very true.
So, looking at my notes, there are a lot of examples that showcase Akane, but even in stuff like this, like Ranma still getting involved with shenanigans. There is one episode exclusive to the anime that's about Akane and what she's doing off screen. Like it basically Ranma is having Ranma shenanigans off screen, but the camera stays on Akane's perspective while we just don't see whatever Ranma's up to. And I think that's also like another sign of like the anime really felt at times like it wanted to explore these characters in a way that Rumiko Takahashi wasn't really allowing them to.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I've never heard of that. Okay.
It is it's from the episode titled An Xmas Without Ranma, not to be confused with the Ranma Christmas special OAV. They had two Christmas specials. But yeah, there is an episode. It is a Christmas special. And yeah, that's what it is. Like, it's Christmas, but like the Christmas theming isn't super important. What's interesting about it is that like the episode opens with like wacky shenanigans happening. Like, it's Christmas, so Rama and Akane were sent out to buy stuff for the family dinner, and then they bump into Moose, and Ranma accidentally knocks over the gift that Moose bought for shampoo when it gets run over by a car, and then they fight, and then they run off, and Akane's like, Ranma, we're supposed to buy the stuff, and it's like, whatever. And then she just lets him go off on his wacky adventure and goes home, and then the episode is basically, what's Akane doing during this time? Ranma is off having wacky Christmas adventures, fighting his various rivals on Christmas Eve. But Akane's just kind of wondering, like, what is he doing? What's taking him so long? And that's what the episode is. And I like that. I like it. It's the only episode that I can say is 100% an Akane episode, and not an Akane and Ranma episode.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna have to look that up. That sounds fascinating.
Yeah, and it's cute. Cause the main conflict there is that, on the way home, Akane bumps into Shampoo. And again, it's so rare to see Akane and Shampoo just interact normally. Even when they're in the same stories, they very rarely talk to each other. They're mostly just both interacting with Ranma, but not with each other. They don't like each other. But it's just so interesting to just see, like, what happens when they bump into each other on the street and they're just being petty. And it's just I feel that Shampoo is at her best when the story remembers that Shampoo is a bully. Shampoo is such a brat. Like, most of the time she's on screen, she's actively trying to win Ranma's affection. So she's being very kind and sweet towards him in a very comedic manner. But whenever we see how she interacts with other people, we're immediately reminded. Hell, even when she's interacting with Ranma, she'll like crash into him with her bike and not care about the fact that she just smashed his face. Because she's just excited to show him the things she's got. Shampoo is a bully. And I love that in this story, she bumps into Akane and is just like, well, it's Christmas, so of course I'm gonna spend it with Ranma. He's gonna spend Christmas with me and not you because you're ugly. Like, just being very spiteful and petty. And Akane's like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. And then she gets home, and then a couple hours pass, and she's like, why isn't Ranma home? Where is he? He's not actually hanging out with Shampoo, is he? Why would he do that? Why would he do that? We agreed we'd have the family dinner. And it's just her working herself up and eventually going out and searching for Ranma. And most of the episode is it's basically her stumbling upon the aftermath of whatever random shenanigans Ranma is having off screen. Like, she tracks down Moose because she saw him with Ranma, but then Moose is like, oh, well, then this happened. And then he bumped into Hoppelsai. So now Akane has to find Hoppelsai, and then that leads to, oh, right, but then Ranma fell into the Kuno mansion, so now Akane has to talk to them, and just her tracking Ranma and all the weirdos he keeps bumping into, while constantly telling people that, like, she does not care what Ranma does for Christmas. It's not a big deal. She's just asking out of curiosity, you know? And, I know you said you were gonna look it up, but, you know, I hope you don't mind me kind of spoiling the ending, because
That was great.
it does something that you pretty much never see get called out or acknowledged. Cause the ending is all the love interests, like, they find out through Akane that, like, Ranma's missing, and, like, wait, what? Huh? So you mean he's free? He's not taken? Like, she goes to Shampoo's restaurant looking for Ranma, and that's how Shampoo finds out, like, wait, you mean he's not at your home? Hold on, I gotta do something. And now Shampoo's looking for Ranma too. And so by the end, all the girls are now fighting to see who gets to spend Christmas with Ranma.
Huh.
And so you got Shampoo, Kodachi, and Ukyo, and they're having a showdown. And Akane is just like, you're all being dumb, who cares? And they're kind of ignoring her. But eventually, Akane gets up on the roof with them, ready to throw down. And she almost gets called out on it, of like, oh, look who's finally doing stuff. Like, she spends the whole episode, and hell, even the whole series, saying that she doesn't care. But now that the girls are actually having a fight, like, all right, let's settle this. Who gets to keep Ranma for today? And Akane's like, I'm getting up. I'm stepping up. That doesn't mean I want to. Like, she is getting involved. But then after being called out, she does have a moment, and it's treated so dramatically. Like, the music is swelling up. The wind is blowing dramatically. Like, this is meant to be the culmination of the episode, where Akane is like, you're all fighting over Ranma and who gets to keep him, like he's a piece of property, and that's stupid. And it sounds like she's arguing that, like, Ranma is his own person. He gets to hang out with who he wants. It doesn't matter that. But then she immediately is like, but that doesn't matter because he's going to spend Christmas with me. Which I think is very cute. I think that's adorable. That, like, she's trying to be mature. She's trying to be like, this is dumb. You're having this petty argument, and it's really stupid. You're all acting like children. But also, he's gonna pick me anyway, so meh. And I think that's adorable. I think that's so cute. And she's just declaring everyone, like, no, Ranma is mine. I get to spend Christmas with him. Fuck you. And then it just kind of ends, which I think is the weirdest part of the episode. Like, she has her declaration, and then the cat, like, it fades out, and then the next scene is her walking home. And I'm like, wait, that's it? We don't get to see what any of the other girls had to say? Like, I'm imagining, like, her just awkwardly climbing down from the roof while the others just look at her like, is that it? We're not gonna fight? What?
This is going to sound like a weird comparison, but another comic that I read a lot of as a kid was the Archie comics, the classic, you know? Yeah. And a thing that they figured out pretty early into their run, like, Archie's an old comic, but within 5 to 10 years of it starting, they figured out that it's a lot more interesting when the comic is about Betty and Veronica fighting over Archie than it is when it's about Archie trying to date them. So it kind of sounds like this is a little bit of what this episode is tapping into here.
Definitely. And, like, again, we rarely see the girls interact with each other. So it's just, it's fun when we get this moment of, like, they don't know where Ranma is, but they're essentially playing rock, paper, scissors to decide who he gets to spend time with once they do find him. And like, making fun of Akane for pretending to be above it all when she very obviously also wants to compete for Ranma, and eventually, like, finally puts her foot down and proclaims herself the victor, which, you know, I think this would have been even better if it also showcased her desire to be a martial artist, because we never see Akane actually fight the other girls either. If she, like, when she gets up on the roof it's presented as like, fine, let's throw down. Like, she's actually gonna fight them. Like, she's gonna fight for Ranma. But then she doesn't, or if she does, we don't see it, because it just cuts away. But like, I just think that is like it wants to explore that so bad. Like I said, the music and like the dramatic wind, it's making such a big deal out of the fact that this is basically the first time Akane has openly admitted that, like, no, Ranma is mine. None of you girls get to have him. He's mine. And it feels like such an important moment, but because it's an anime exclusive filler moment, it doesn't get to go anywhere. It just ends. And then she's just walking home and bumps into Ranma. Then they go home and, Kasumi has the Christmas dinner ready. And that's kind of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like the other examples, like it feels like they want to explore it, but they can't. Like they felt like almost like they felt they weren't allowed to, but then they still did it anyways. They just weren't able to do it fully or in a way that felt like it mattered. And it's just so bizarre.
Yeah, they can walk right up to the edge of the cliff, but they can't take the step.
Yeah, and like I feel like that stuff could be explored. Like this is where we get into my fan fiction ideas. But like a missed opportunity I feel that could have really been done to like flesh out some of these characters. Shampoo doesn't seem to take training very seriously. We never see her train. We never see her do any martial arts unless, oh, this person did something, now I have to kill them for the honor of the Amazon village or whatever. But whenever she's not doing that, she's just kind of chilling. She's just kind of hanging out or like working her normal job. She doesn't seem to care about martial arts.
Yeah, it's just because it does seem like, from my recollection, the first time we're given her backstory, she is the winner of the Amazon Village martial arts tournament, and yet she never seems to have any interest in it.
Yeah, like, if her pride is on the line, she will fight. But otherwise, she doesn't seem to have any interest. Which, in a way, is similar to Ranma. Like, as you pointed out, Akane is the one that wants to be taken seriously as a martial artist, whereas Ranma's the one that's often forced into those situations. He was raised and taught that he needs to do these challenges. He can't back down. And in a way, that's Shampoo's whole thing with the Amazon law. Amazon law says if this person did this to you, you give them the kiss of death. You have to kill that person. You better show them that you are an Amazon and you take these things seriously. But in her own private time, Shampoo doesn't do much. and I like to I want to combine that thought with the Breaking Point arc, where the whole point of that arc is Cologne recognizes that Ranma needs a rival to push him and motivate him to become stronger, so she starts training Ryoga and teaches him the breaking point because she thinks Ranma's getting sloppy. Like, at the beginning of that arc, Ranma beats Ryoga. He's like, Ryoga, did you get weak? And it's like, no, Ranma, you just got stronger, but Ranma doesn't recognize it. He's not taking his training seriously. And Cologne wants to fix that. And so when you combine those two, it makes sense that Cologne might come to the conclusion that Shampoo isn't taking her martial arts seriously enough. She needs something to motivate her to keep getting stronger. Whenever Shampoo is trying to win over Ranma, she's using schemes. She's using magic. She's just trying to trick Ranma. She's not using anything martial arts based. So, like, I feel a missed opportunity. Cologne should have given Akane a training arc.
I love this.
I could just picture it. I can picture Cologne taunting Akane and Akane just not caring and thinking it's some kind of trick and being insulted, and then through being goaded ends up like learning a new technique and then challenging Shampoo, and Cologne's doing that because she wants to motivate Shampoo, and all sorts of stuff. That feels like something that could have happened.
It absolutely does. And you can just imagine how weird and annoying and intrusive Ranma would get because he's jealous he's not getting special training, and
Yeah, or like him saying that, like Akane being like, I learned a new move. Like, in my opinion, like I mentioned before, there is a move Akane gets in multiple fighting games that I don't recognize from the manga or anime, where she just does like a full screen punch. Like, that's
huh.
it. It's just like she just like this. You do this complex input, and she just charges and does the one punch. She does the One Punch Man punch and just charges
Okay.
forward, and she's like super angry. It's like I think the logic is like when she's like punching Ranma and launching him into the sky, and he's blasting off again. But
Sure,
like,
sure.
but like horizontally. What if she did that horizontally? And I'm like, that could have been her signature move. That could have been something Cologne taught her, you know? And I'm like, I'm imagining the fan fiction version of like, you need to channel your anger. You need to channel your ki to move your fist forward. Don't punch, move. Let your fist
Yeah.
move or something. And like having to like do the specific timing, similar to Ranma having to learn how to move in a perfect spiral and being like, no, you idiot, it's too crooked. You have to do it properly or something. Like, that feels like the kind of training montage you would get with Akane, because we don't see her fight very often, but what we do see is Akane is very much like, yeah, she will do one punch. She will punch Ranma once and he goes flying off. She will kick someone.
Hmm.
That's it. Akane doesn't seem built for stamina, which might be why we only ever see her jogging or punching cinder blocks. She's trying to fix that.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Especially very early on, it really seems like it wants to present her as she's the really strong one, and Ranma's fast by comparison, and then Ryoga gets introduced, and that idea just goes away because he's super strong.
Yeah, Ryoga basically takes on that exact attitude. But yeah, the first time they spar is Akane trying to hit Ranma and she can't because he's too fast. Ranma is very much portrayed as the light, floaty one of the two. But then, as soon as Ryoga is used to contrast that, we don't really have anything to compare Akane with. And I'm just like, but Shampoo's right there. Shampoo is also very light and floaty, similar to Ranma. And again, similar to Ranma, Shampoo is very much the one who's like, she's kind of almost forced to care about martial arts, but doesn't seem as
Hmm.
invested. Whereas Akane seems to be the Ryoga to that, of like, she's very prideful. There's nothing at stake other than her own personal insecurities compelling her to want to prove she can do it and just punch the problem away. And you could have had, like, it is just interesting when you break down these character traits. Akane and Shampoo do have the exact same dynamic as Ranma and Ryoga, and yet they almost never interact.
Yeah, sure. And the other thing that's really sticking out to me as we have this conversation is that, like, as Kodachi is introduced in the first story, she really does feel like she's meant to be a foil to Akane. She's very much out to get Akane specifically by that beginning, and it's like, okay, well, you want to learn how to do this and do it right, and I'm just here to cheat. And there's very much like an opposition thing there, and then because Akane is not the main character, she gets sidelined and Ranma does it instead, and then they're never rivals again.
Yeah, well, technically, they are. There is one. Kodachi's another character that just kind of falls off, which again, like, the anime tries to fix that, but one of the very few Kodachi storylines is the one where she and Akane compete to make the best cookies. Do you remember that one?
True. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and like that is another interesting comparison because Kodachi is extremely, she presents as extremely feminine. Her entire presentation, like she has the very, like she's very rich, so she has the fancy dresses. She will make cookies and then poison them so that she can kidnap you. But like she's making cookies. She's baking cakes. She's extremely feminine in how she presents herself. When she first meets Ranma, she pretends to faint. She is mimicking a very cheesy, kind of soap opera-ish meet cute with Ranma. And it's very goofy, but like Kodachi is very much that feminine goal that Akane very frequently seeks out. Akane is constantly trying to prove that she can also cook things, she can also do these things and dress up pretty. And that's what that one arc is about, where she's trying to make these cookies and make Ranma eat them. But then Kodachi shows up and she's making even better cookies with no effort. So yeah, like almost all of the rivals have the potential to have some kind of dynamic with Akane. They almost all contrast with her in some way. You got Ukyo, who is Ranma's childhood friend. Her main thing is that she is close to Ranma. Ukyo and Ranma are like best friends. Ranma has no problems complimenting Ukyo. That's his buddy. He will call her cute. He will call her the best and like, yeah, you're awesome. And like Akane wishes that Ranma could be that comfortable with her.
For sure.
And like yeah, as I said at the start, a lot of these stories revolve around what Akane isn't. A lot of the potential rivalries are about what Akane is not and what these other rivals offer to someone like Ranma that Akane can't. And it's interesting how, like, those could be explored and combined with the stuff like in the Romeo and Juliet arc, where Akane wants to be perceived one way, but she just can't escape how people already view her. People already see her as the Romeo.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
when you combine that with her potential relationships with the other character, it's like it is ever present. It's always there. It's just never the focus.
Yeah, people rag on the idea of retelling stories from new perspectives because it's just the same book over again, but this really seems like something that could be deeply explored in a way that it wasn't.
Yeah. There are moments in the anime that like excel because of this. And I remember when the Netflix version was announced and like claimed it's people were like, "Oh, this one's going to be more faithful." I hate when people make a big deal about an adaptation being more faithful, cuz usually
Mm-hmm.
older adaptations were more interesting because of the parts that weren't faithful, the parts that were added
Yeah.
in. And granted, the reverse can also be true, where the worst parts can be what they added in. But like, the concept of the Netflix anime kind of bores me, because it's promising to just be the manga, but prettier. And I'm just like, but the manga already exists. And the original anime
Yeah.
also exists, but it added stuff in. And sure, some of those filler episodes were stinkers. There's over 160 episodes, plus like 12 specials released afterwards. But like, that's unique stuff. That's stuff that like shows the potential that there is more to these characters and setups that could be explored and that for whatever reason Rumiko Takahashi just never did. So the idea of limiting ourselves to just that, to only the things Rumiko Takahashi put down on paper, and it's like, well, we already have several examples showing that you can do more than that. You don't have
Yeah.
to stick with just this.
Yeah. It's. I get to a weird point with stuff like this because I don't want to be a purist, right? I want to let stuff breathe. And if something is being created, if you're telling me you're making a new anime, sure, that's great, but it needs to be something different. If it's just exactly the same, there's no point to it. And then on the other hand, I'm also the person who doesn't want, I guess, exploitative adaptation is the word I would use.
Yeah.
Like, you look at the upcoming oh, they're making Lord of the Rings Gollum, and it's going to be 2 movies about what Gollum was doing, and that's not a thing I want. I don't think that's creative or interesting.
Yeah,
But it's like it's hard for me to thread the needle of you're allowed to just do whatever, go for it, and well, that just sounds like an awful idea.
yeah, there are certain things that invite the audience to imagine more, and Lord of the Rings Gollum is not that. We have a pretty good idea of what Gollum's life was like between those two stories. It doesn't take
Yeah.
it doesn't take a lot to imagine. So whatever those movies are going to be, it's just going to be fan fiction.
Yeah, it's gonna be 6 hours of Gollum the video game, yeah.
Yeah, whereas something like with Rama One Half, there are so many things about the characters that invite us to want to see more. We want to explore these characters more. I've mentioned before the exact same thing happened with Urusei Yatsura, where like Rumiko Takahashi's works keep begging to be explored more. People keep adapting her work and adding to it because it encourages us to do so. She writes things in a way that makes it very easy to picture. I basically invented my own fan fiction episode about Akane being trained under Cologne, and it's super easy to imagine. You can picture
Yeah.
exactly how it would go because the characters are so well defined, and everything that I made up would fit in perfectly as something that could have just happened on its own. And that's something that anime was good at doing sometimes. Of like, well, technically this didn't happen, but like, it would have, right? It could have gone like this. There's an episode that's basically just, hey, wait a minute. Kodachi never interacts with her dad in the manga once. Isn't that weird? What if we just did an episode exploring her relationship with her own father, who never even acknowledges her in the original work? What if we did that? It's like, yeah, of course Kodachi and her dad have a relationship with each other.
Yeah.
That is worth exploring. That you don't have to like invent an entire Gollum timeline. It's not like it's not like you have to create your own like Netflix's Wednesday Addams storyline to like create an excuse to bring Kodachi and her dad together. It's like, no, they're right there. You can just picture it in your head right now. It's not hard.
Yeah, you really truly can. Sorry, you mentioned that show and I'm shaking now.
Oh no. I should find other examples of adaptations for that from now on. That one might hit too hard for some people.
Listen, there are 4 types of people, and you're definitely one of them, and if you're not, it's fine, you're the secret 5th type of person.
This has been an interesting recording, because when we started, I was prepared to be like, there aren't a lot of Akane episodes. There aren't a lot of stories about her.
Sure.
And yet, by the end, I feel we've listed more examples of interesting episodes that explore Akane than any of the other characters.
Yeah, definitely more than I would have thought going into it.
Yeah, like I said, there's not a lot where it's just Akane. It's often Akane and Ranma. There's Akane episodes tend to not pass the Bechdel test. But like I said, even when like the family characters don't get a lot of stories about them, like Kasumi and Nabiki are almost never the focus. They each get like 1 or 2 episodes each. And like Akane's similar. There's not a lot of stuff that's about her, but because she's always present, we could pick like, oh yeah, this one story that's about Kodachi, or this one story that's about Shampoo, this one story that's about Rama and Ryoga fighting over soap. These stories still have very good examples of what kind of person Akane is, and how she will react to different situations. And I think that is what characters like Akane have over these other characters. We don't know how Shampoo would react in certain situations. Like, Shampoo has never interacted with Hopplesai. What would that be like? There's in one of the Super Nintendo fighting games, the story is basically the principal is tricking everyone into fighting each other. Like, he's the reason everyone is having this, like, World Warrior Street Fighter tournament, basically, and everyone's stories is the different reasons he has tricked them. And my absolute favorite is Shampoo's, because her story is just, like, she's just kind of listening to the principal be like, legend says that there are 11 warriors. It's actually an ancient Chinese idiom of with the Confucius and all this. And Shampoo's just like, tell me more. Yeah, this sounds interesting. Okay, I just have to beat them up. Yeah, I can do that. Like everyone else is tricked, but with Shampoo, it's just like, if you fight everyone, that would be really cool. And Shampoo's like, that does sound cool. I should do that. And I'm just like, yeah, that's the only piece of media where Shampoo and the school principal interact. And I think that's super funny. That, like, she doesn't think he's weird. She doesn't think he's creepy. She doesn't hate him. She's just like, you know what? This weird Hawaiian man is spouting some real good facts. I should listen to him. And I think that's so fun. I think it's so fun when the characters interact with each other, but with so many of the rival characters, we never get that.
Yeah, because it's always got to focus on Ranma specifically. We never get their day in the sun the way we need to.
Yeah, the story of, well, what's Akane doing during Christmas while Ranma's having his own shenanigans, you could do that with any character.
Frankly, you could probably put a season of any one of these characters and what they were doing without too much difficulty.
You could have, like, I'm surprised that there was never anything, like, in none of the anime, none of the movies, none of the video games. There was never, I kept waiting to find something that's just Ryoga hanging out at the house being a pig. Just, what is he doing when everyone is off at school or work? And it's just him at home being a pet. Nothing ever explores that.
Are you familiar with the manga Pluto?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing I want here. For the listener, it's an Astro Boy story, which then about 20 years later was taken by another artist and writer. And they said, well, this was an interesting Astro Boy plot. What if we take it and recontextualize it and focus on the detective instead of on Astro Boy? And we just make it into a noir murder mystery that's much more intense and, like, psychological than the, oh no, robots are getting blown up.
Yeah.
And I think we could very easily do that with any given character in Ranma.
Yeah, you could absolutely do stories that are just, well, what are these characters up to? Like, again, it doesn't even have to be like a perspective switch of, like, an existing story. It can literally just be like, well, what's a normal day for Kodachi? Like, she just,
yeah.
we never see her going to school, except for when they go to fight at her school. But, like, what's she doing when it's a normal day? Why does she go to a fancy private school, but her brother just goes to the generic public school? Why do they go to different schools at all? Why doesn't she go to the public school? Like, there could be stuff to explore there. I can absolutely picture Kodachi as a little kid demanding to go to the fancy school with the cool uniforms because she refuses to go to the public school. Whereas her brother is just like, I heard there's some tough people at this school, I want to fight them.
Send me wherever the best kendo club is, yeah.
Yeah. But, like, that never gets explored. Like, you could do this with any of the characters. You could have an episode that's just, okay, this is a weird example. You know the Golden Girls?
Oh yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah. There's the one episode where the oldest one, it's just, what is she doing on her normal day-to-day life. Just what kind of weird stuff is she up to? And like we see the thing that contextualizes her weird moments where she'll show up in a scene and it's like, what did you do? Oh, I bought a peach or something. But then we get the episode show that like, oh, well, this revolves around like her meeting like a girl in a wheelchair and helping her out or something. And I'm like, you could literally have an episode that's just, what is Hoppleside doing during his day? Like, he can't just be stealing panties the whole time.
I would hope not.
He can fit his collection in a closet. It's not that big. He's got to be doing something else.
I mean...
there are stories that show he has a soft spot for children. There's literally a filler episode where he basically falls in love with, like, a kindergarten teacher. And it's one of those things where she's like, oh, I thought you were one of those creepy old perverts. I hate perverts. They're the absolute worst. If I ever see one, oh, it's gonna be the worst. She's like, yeah, that would be terrible. Anyways, you're a teacher, and he's just trying to be a nice guy. Mm-hmm. And like, that's just a silly thing. You love, just like, you could take any of the characters, even the worst characters, just having a normal day would still be interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. You say Happosi's normal day, and the only thing that comes to me is the chapter where the kids think he's Santa Claus and he teaches them to steal underwear for him.
Yeah, I think that's a great chapter. Especially because at the end, they kind of guilt him into stopping it. I'm like, okay, maybe I did go too far. And like, he seems to genuinely like the kids. And like, he does teach them stuff. He actually taught Miss Hideko martial arts to improve her health. I can absolutely... like, in my mind, I am imagining Hoppleside going back to those two orphans and giving them presents on Christmas. Like,
yeah, I guess I could see that.
He convinced them he was Santa Claus, so he's gonna get them toys. That feels like something he would do, and it doesn't change the fact that he's still Hoppleside. He's still a bad person, but I'm just saying that as an example. Like, even Hoppleside, the most hated character, both in-universe and out, you could still do this with. You could still, like, there's still something that could compel us to, like, just see that character's perspective, or just see him interacting with any other character besides Ranma. And Akane is maybe the only character, like, the one we come closest to seeing that with.
Yeah, I mean, she's really the only one who gets the chance, I think.
Yeah, we kind of know what her dynamic with everyone would be, even if we never get to see it. And the desire to see it means that, like, there's so much potential there, and there have been attempts. But yeah, that's what I feel is... It's why I think if you were to ask people for, like, their top 5 Ranma characters, not a lot of people would list Akane, but I think she is still, like, by far one of the strongest and most compelling characters because of how much of her gets half explored.
Oh, absolutely.
It's still better than nothing.
Yeah, for sure. She's in a lot of ways, she's a ghost that haunts the background, but she's just always there, and that's what makes her so interesting.
Yeah. Now, if only she'd stop nagging that Ranma and being such a hypocrite. Oh, the worst character ever. I once was looking something up on the wiki and, like, checked up an episode, and then, like, in the trivia section, there was this, like, gigantic paragraph that took up, like, half the screen. That's just like, this episode contains yet another example of Akane's hypocrisy, and it's just this giant rant about Akane and how she's being mean and unfair to Ranma, and I'm like, that's not trivia.
Yeah, no.
It's always fun to see the kind of things people think they're allowed to just put in the trivia section. That's that's how we get Silent Hill circumcision wiki drama.
Back when Us Weirdos was covering She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, we were frequently frustrated because the wiki trivia would just be stuff like, "This is the first episode this season that Catra is in." Like, cool, thank you, as if that were not obvious from the summary and the cast listing. But on some level, I guess that's probably better than angry tirades about how the characters are acting.
Yeah. And again, Akane has her weaker moments, but she's allowed to be petty. She's been through a lot.
Absolutely. She deserves a little pettiness.
Most of the characters around her do way worse.
Listen, when you are constantly surrounded by people who are just randomly doing the most awful things imaginable to each other, you get to be grumpy.
Yeah. That's Akane. I think we did a good job summarizing her.
Absolutely. We were a little all over the place, but I think it was important.
That's kind of just how you have to do Akane. Like, again, she doesn't have any major arcs that can't be described in like 2 sentences.
Sure, yeah.
It's just so interesting. She's so prominent, but so easily forgotten. I remember when we were doing the tier list episode, we got like to like season 6 or like season 5 when there was finally an ending that focused on Akane, and you pointed that out. That like this is an Akane focused ending theme. Even though like most of the lyrics are from her perspective in almost all the themes. She is presented as the main love interest, and yet she's only ever really featured when they're showing off all the love interests. Like, here's Akane,
Yeah.
here's Shampoo, here's Ranma, you know. Akane very rarely got focus in any marketing, in any of the stories. She's just there. But like I said, I don't think a lot of people would list her as their favorite character. But like, she's so unimportant to a series where she is arguably like the second most important character.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I don't think I can follow that up. That's the perfect summary.
Yeah, well, that's Akane. I think we did a good job. I think that's a good place to wrap that up. It's hard to explore her, but like I think that's better than just I think it's good to have to list off a bunch of stuff. Cause again, it's very easy to look at like, well, in this episode, Akane's being really mean to Ranma for no good reason. Because there are moments like that, and it's easy for me to be
Sure.
like, yeah, but like, look at all the other times Rama's a jerk. But like, it's better when you list them all together. List off all of these different traits of Akane. List off all of her best traits, all of her worst traits. You get a better picture of who she is. Because the series isn't going to do that for you. It's going to force you to have to look at the big picture and get these little snippets one at a time until you can piece it together over the course of the entire series, which it doesn't really do with the other characters. So, aside from the usual internet misogyny, I think that's also a factor into why she's so disliked in certain circles. Because maybe those people just didn't do the homework. Maybe they didn't see everything. Maybe they didn't see anything other than these specific examples that paint her in the worst light. Because again, the series isn't gonna list off her best traits for her. You gotta dig in there.
Honestly, I think it would be incredibly easy to just miss all of the good stories with her. Like, they're so sporadic that if you were just sitting down to watch any, well, I don't know how it is in the anime, but if you just picked up any random volume, the odds that you would get a good Akane story are so low.
Yeah, like, even with the anime, I only listed like 2 or 3 examples out of like 7 seasons. It's very easy to watch, like, you could watch an entire season and potentially get 0 good examples.
Oh, that's so rough.
It would probably have to be in the middle, because those were the worst seasons where we got the most, like, janky filler episodes, but, you know, the early parts and then the later seasons where they got weirder and did more unique stuff. Those probably have better examples.
Well, that's good to hear, at least.
So I guess that's the best we could do with Akane. I hope everyone had fun. I hope you had fun.
Yeah, this was great.
Yeah. Well, before we sign off, where can we find you? Anything you'd like to promote this time?
Yeah, I'm kind of all over the place, but these days, the thing that I do most consistently is every Monday I'm streaming actual plays at twitch.tv/randomrhapsody. It's 2 games playing on alternate weeks. On one week, we're playtesting the Sagas system, which is a really interesting you want to roll as low as you possibly can system. I haven't really seen anything like that before. And
Oh, that
on the
sounds
other
neat.
weeks, we're playing Pathfinder, so, tactical RPG combat if you're into that.
Yeah. I know you've got so much stuff, so I was having fun being like, what are we gonna promote this time?
Yeah,
Because
no,
there's a
that's
lot of
absolutely
it.
the way I do it when I do guest appearances. I just choose one thing and that's what I talk about.
Yeah, you can't list it all, but like there's some good stuff. But yeah, that's a good place to find you. Um, I'm trying to I'm trying my best to get this out there and let people know that we do have an email. I have married myself to good old
Oh,
Ranma podcast at gmail.com. The, the,
hey,
the,
nice.
the email that Google thinks is my main and most important email. So that's what it calls me. But yeah, that's me. Ramapodcast at gmail.com. Um Feel free to write in, and in the 8 or so months it will take to get some questions, I will eventually read them out. I promise. But yeah, that seems like a good place to end that. So, um, I didn't think of a good way to end this.
uh, well, I mean, you could always punch me once and send me flying off into the stratosphere. That seems like a tried and true method.
Ah, baka!